everybody, very welcome to yet another live stream here on the Mentor Pilot channel. As always, I hope you're doing absolutely fantastic. For those of you who haven't been here before on any of my live streams, I'm surprised because I've been doing it for over a year now. But anyway, the way that I do this is that I am primarily going to answer all of the questions that comes up in the super chats. Those are the messages that has a little dollar sign next to them. It means that you're supporting the channel with a few dollars or so to ask your question, and I will always answer those. But today I will also answer questions that come from my new forum inside of the Mentour Aviation app. So I've just created different forums. Those of you who were with me yesterday could follow me when we were looking at the Eurovision Song Contest, for example. But there are different forums about aviation news, about flight schools, about Boeing 747 versus the Airbus 380, basically anything that you can come up with. And how do I get this fantastic app, you might ask? Well, there's free download links here in the description of the video, and also this is how you access the forums. So you open the Mentour Aviation app, you go down, you select forums, and there at the very top there is live stream questions where you can just enter your questions and I'll be looking at them as well. So here, for example, it's me writing something for you guys. So that's how it's going to work. And I have already got a slew of questions that I want to start to answer. Let's see, the very first question that came in. How do you deal with walk-arounds on very rainy days? Even with an umbrella, your shoes and bottom trousers are going to be soggy wet. Do you have spare ones? It's a great question, actually. The fact is that I always carry an umbrella with me, and if it's not too windy, that umbrella actually is enough to keep me from being too soggy. But I don't carry any spare trousers with me or any rain boots. I just send the first officer out to do the walk-around. No. But the honest answer is that yeah, you do get a little bit wet. If it's really, really bad weather, then if it's a snowstorm outside and you do the walk around, you will come in and be a little bit moist, and it's unpleasant. But you turn up the heat and the air in the cockpit, and you dry up quite quickly. So it's an interesting question. I've never been answered that or asked that before. So I'll continue to take more questions then from the app, which I'm hoping that you all have by now. By the way, I have brought the prices for the instructional videos back up again to where they were supposed to be. So if you want to get the all-in-one collection now, that's 2 hours of instruction by me on anything from setting up the 737 to seeing how to do a TCAS maneuver or a Cat 3 landing and go around, for example. That's now $10, and it's available for everyone. The prices will stay there, guys, because the next feature that's going to come in the app is premium membership. So those of you who want to really get the full use out of the app, it's going to get the possibility to get premium membership, which will come with all sorts of perks. But one of the perks will also be to be streaming videos. So the new videos that I create in the app, when I get my hands on a simulator, I can go and do maybe a full flight, for example, from ATB or something like that. That's going to be able to be streamed by premium users directly from the app without having to download it. So that's one of the new functions that are coming up. So some more questions from the app here. So there's loads of questions about the 737 MAX, and I understand that. I understand that there's a lot of interest around it. I'll take one here from Nicola. Regardless of what the outcome of the 737 MAX investigation will be, how can a pilot still trust Boeing, which hid the existence of the AMCAS to the pilot, the airlines and the FAA, as far as we know, effectively reducing pilot situational awareness? Well, the fact is that I do trust Boeing. I think that they've made some major mistakes. I think that there was some flaws, well, definitely was some flaws that had horrific outcome with the 737 MAX. And from time to time, the aircraft manufacturers makes these mistakes. I do believe, however, that there were individual mistakes made on an individual level. I don't think that there was any kind of conspiracy-driven, we're going to try to hide this. They genuinely thought that the MCAS system was an insignificant system until they understood the full significance of it. Now, that is not an excuse, obviously, but what I'm trying to say here is that now they have been made aware of that. Now they are redesigning designing the system. It's going to be based on 2 alpha vanes rather than 1. There's going to be warning lights in the cockpit, and believe me, they're now going through, and if Boeing is not going through it, the FAA and the rest of the world is going through every single page of the certification with a fine toothbrush and a comb to make sure that there's no other kind of hidden gems in there. All right. So once the 737 MAX is released again, both by the FAA but also by the European and the Canadian and the Australian and the Chinese and all of the other authorities that are out there, then yes, I have confidence in flying it. I do believe that it's probably going to end up with a little bit of training for the pilots as well, since there are some different characteristics that has been coming out of this. We will see what we get to. But I mean, as a pilot, you have to trust the manufacturer. If you can't trust the manufacturer of the aircraft that you fly in, you can't fly that aircraft. And if it turns out that there's something else that's coming out now, well, then that's a different story. But yeah, I am going to trust them because we really don't have a choice. Okay. So Ian Jill, first one in the super chat. Thank you very much for coming in and for supporting the channel. Been away, flew a geriatric 757 because the MAX is grounded, and flew back into MCR to see 5 grounded MAX. Very sad, even as an Airbus fan. Yeah, I mean, it is sad. This is not something that anyone wants to see, but it is necessary. Obviously, the industry always have safety at the very forefront of what's important. And even though this is costing millions and millions of dollars for both the airlines involved and especially for Boeing is probably counting it in the billions in losses for this. The safety has to prevail. Like, if they find a flaw that shouldn't have existed in the first place, well, then that has to be rectified. It has to be recertified before we can let them go. So yeah, it is a sad sight to see those brand new birds sitting on the ground, but there's nothing we can do about it, unfortunately, until the process has had its kind of its time. Cool. So Søren has come in with a super chat question as well. Now the question was retracted. If you have a question, please feel free to go into the app, go to settings, go to submit feedback, and just write super chat question, and then we'll send an email to me and I will answer that for you, Søren. Okay. Right, more questions from the forums, and as you can see, they're very busy. There's loads and loads of questions coming up, and this is what I love with the forums, by the way. Now people can have dedicated discussions about, for example, the 737 MAX crisis. There is a forum for that. So if you want to go in and you want to talk to me or to Boeing Bill or to any of the other pilots that are in there, or any of the other enthusiasts, you can peddle what you've heard. You can send in the links that you've heard about new news stories, for example, but you can keep at focus. The old chat is still in the app. All right, the old chat is there, but that's going to be more as an actual chat where people can just sit and talk if they have nothing else to do. But inside of the forums, you'll be able to talk about specific details. So I want you, if you have the app and you're using it, I want you to go in and try to start using it. I know the lazy way is always just to use the chat, but I really want these forums to start moving. So I'll take the next question here. Do you have a base route you fly? I fly on a airline every now and then, and I'm always wishing to meet you. From Ben's Bocor. Yeah, I mean, I'm based in Girona. That's my home base, and I fly all of the flights that come from Girona. During the winter, that's not too many. Basically, Eindhoven, Pisa, and a few others. But now during the summer, we fly to all of Europe because it's a fantastic and beautiful time to come to Costa Brava, and I recommend all of you to come and do that. So I can be on any of those flights. So hopefully, if you hear Petter Hörnfeldt being the captain, that's me. And then don't be afraid to tell the cabin crew that you want to come up and say hello, because I love meeting you guys. Right, more super chat questions from David Blancard. Hi Mentor, I posted a question in the forum regarding late runway changes from ATC on short final. Well, in short final, there's not going to be any runway changes from ATC. All right. There's only one choice. If it turns out that the tailwind, for example, becomes too strong, or there's something happening on the airport, if they close the runway, well, then they're going to order a go around. All right. The go around is going to be executed. We're going to go into potentially into a holding pattern. And from that holding pattern, we can then replan to go into the other runway that they might have started. Now, I'll see if I can actually find the question. There's starting to be quite a few of them now. So, ATC change runways on you, for example, when wind changes, and if you're on short final, is it mandatory misapproach? Yeah, so that answered your question. They basically, it happens very rarely. They tend to start to change the runway even before it goes out of limit. So, for example, the 737, we can take up to 10 knots of tailwind. In some runways, we have special, the company has decided that providing that we can check that we have proper landing performance, we can go up to 15 knots, but not more than 15 knots. And this means that most airports will actually start changing the runway when they see that the tailwind is going up to 7 knots or 6-7 knots, and there's a tendency that it's going up. All right. So more questions here. Fernando Dorini Borges, thank you very much. Can you be a commercial pilot with mild asthma? This is a medical question, and as a rule, I don't say yes or no or give it any good answers to medical questions. What I can say is that part of getting your class 1 medical is going to be to check your lungs and your lung capacity. So it depends on how bad the asthma is and how much you can produce. So what I would suggest is that you contact an AME and you ask them directly. Tell them what kind of asthma you have, and they're most likely they're going to tell you to come into an aeromedical center, which is where you do your initial class 1, and just do this test first to see if that is something that will stop you. But I'm not saying that it doesn't work. I'm just saying that there is a test that checks your lung capacity, so be aware of that. Cool. So there is full movement inside of the live stream questions forum here. I'm going to go back a little bit. Is it a good time now to become a pilot? From David Flight. Yes, right now is very good. The last 5 years it's been better than I have seen during my 18 years in the industry. There has been you have the rise of China, where there's China is opening up. When I started, it was only like 10 airports in the entire China. Now they're popping up like mushrooms, and airlines are coming with them. So loads of pilots are being used, or being, are going there. And the training industry in China has not matured yet, which means that loads of pilots are needed to fly there. All right, those pilots are being paid a bucket load of money at the moment, which means that they're kind of harvesting top level pilots from all over the world, and those positions has to be filled up. So a huge demand in one place is going to increase the demand globally. And then you have the same thing happening basically in the Middle East, where you have had a huge expansion during the last few years. Europe is doing quite well, even though we can see some airlines actually going bust in Europe at the moment. America, both South America and North America, is doing quite well as well. So at the moment it's doing quite well. However, there is a likelihood that we will see a bit of a dip during the coming few years. The reason for that is that this industry is always cyclic. Okay, it never stays the same. And when we've had a huge boom like the one we've seen now the last 5 years, it's likely that it might drop down a little bit. Okay, however, unless we will see some kind of war, let's say that Trump decide to attack Iran, and that will have a huge impact obviously on fuel prices and just the general security, well, then all bets are off. Then we can go in to see another crisis as we saw after 2002 or in 2008. Okay, that could happen, but I'm hoping that that won't happen. Okay, if that doesn't happen, then it's likely that we're going to see a quite good market going forward as well. Because if you just look at the order books that Airbus and Boeing have, someone is going to have to fly all of those aircraft, and there's not enough pilots out there. So what I'm hoping for is more women to come into the industry, because at the moment we're only about 3 to 5%, which is, we can't just do this on half of the population. We have to have both sides of the population doing this. So I want more women in. and I want more of you guys to go and do your suitability tests and make sure that you have the stuff before you start your training. This is actually a personal crusade that I'm on myself. And then if you are and you have the financial, and the financial bit is always a problem, but we'll if it were up to me, there would be more pressure on the airlines to solve the financial bit of the pilot training. I know that that's a huge issue for you guys, but we'll see what happens as the need for pilot increases. So, more questions. John Els, hi Mentor. Is 25 minutes enough time to open the aircraft door, start the engines, and do a walk around proper pre-flight for a 3.5 hour flight? Yeah, it is. For us, for the pilots, we could do everything that we need to do in about 15 to 20 minutes. Like I could do a turnaround in 20 minutes quite easily, and following all the standard operating procedures, checking all of the things that I need to do. I need 15 minutes in the cockpit to do the briefings, the setup, the performance, all of that. What takes time is the actual physical movements of all of the passengers out, then the cleaning and the security check of the aircraft, and then the boarding. All right, that is the limit, and you cannot go below 25 minutes for a 737-800. In fact, if you have a full flight in and a full flight out, it's almost impossible to do it. But it's not, we don't skip on security and safety. Okay, like from the pilot's point of view, if I feel that something isn't done properly, well, then I will delay. Then it will take 30 minutes or 35 minutes or whatever it might take. If I need to stand outside and do fuel supervising, which we do, and we have to take a lot of fuel, well, then I know that when I get on board, I'm going to need my 15 minutes to do the proper setup and briefings, and I'm not going to stress it. So it's going to be a 30 minutes or a 35-minute turnaround. But yes, in a normal circumstance, 25 minutes is perfectly doable. However, you need to know your stuff, right? I'm thinking about doing a video about this, how to do a 25-minute turnaround, so you can see exactly what the different parts are. More questions. I see this starting to pop up quite a bit now. Christopher Edge, just thank you, Petter, and thanks for great content. Well, thank you. Right? Without you, I wouldn't be doing this. All right. This is these kind of feedback loops that I get with you. The feedback loop that I have with the Patreon crew as well. And by the way, if you're a patron out there, I hope that you have updated your address info in Patreon. If not, go and do it. Right? Because we're going to send out some goodies to you soon. I actually have my Mentor wife in the app helping me out with that now. But these kind of interactions that I'm doing with you guys, when I have the possibility to talk directly to you, either via live stream like this or via the app, this is why I'm doing this. All right, this is why I continue to do videos every single week, because I know that there's loads of you guys out there who are appreciating the info that I'm giving out, and I know that there's loads of passengers as well, people who are just nervous flyers who are interested in aviation from that perspective, and the fact that I can help some of you guys is fantastic. Oh, by the way, we have a dedicated forum for nervous flyers. So if you go into the Mentour Aviation app, there is a dedicated forum there. It says Nervous Flyer. You can go in, you can ask your questions there. I go in and I answer whenever I can. But we also have people who are actually working as psychologists and coaches who are also aviation enthusiasts who are in there and kind of taking care of the forum. Anna's dad is one of them. And he will be able to give you some professional advice on, what to think about and how to deal with it. And this is just the first step. I am aiming on doing some dedicated stuff for you guys to make sure that you can get the best possible first introduction flight, or to help you, to make sure that you don't get too nervous. John Eller, thank you again. Do you think you will ever own your own plane? Unlikely, right? Maybe a smaller aircraft. We'll see what my kids say when they grow up, if they want to go out flying with dad, and maybe we can look into buying like an ultralight. There's some really, really good, well-built ones now, but never say never. Mentor Airlines does have a good ring to it, and there might be some cool stuff coming up soon for you guys if you stay tuned. We'll see what happens. Blimp Commander, that's an awesome nickname, dude. You are doing a wonderful job here with those wanting to get into flying. Keep up the good work and thank you. Well, thank you. All right. Like I said again, I wouldn't do this if it weren't for you and for all of you who are sending like nice comments in, giving thumbs up and likes on my videos. All of that helps. That's why I'm doing this. Derek Clement, thank you very much. And now, Derek, I see that you donated quite a bit and you didn't put a question in. So, Derek, if you just write me, if you go into the Mentour Aviation app, go to settings, submit feedback, write super chat question, I will answer that. Maybe not tonight because it's getting quite late, but tomorrow. All right? Thank you for supporting the channel. So, Sam Petros. Sam, great to have you here, man. I know that I promised to talk to you. Sam is a great contributor inside of the app. He is the one, if you go into aviation news, you will see that Sam is basically scouring the internet for all the aviation news out there. So all of the new things that's happening will be there with links, and that's probably Sam was doing that. It's also part of my Patreon crew. So Sam, I know that I promised that I would call you today. To discuss the questions that you have. This is something that I do exclusively with my patrons, by the way. There was some other stuff coming in, but tomorrow I'm going to be traveling over to London tomorrow to do my own simulator check. This is why I'm so late on today, because I was actually doing the exams, the technical and the SOP exam for that. But it means that I will have time, okay? And this also, by the way, might mean, we'll see, there might not be a video on Friday. I'm just gonna tell you that, guys, that there is a possibility that I might not have time to do a quality video for you to Friday. I'm gonna be choked out in the simulator doing my own check this week, and on Friday I actually have an appointment that I need to go to, which is when I would be doing my videos normally. But we'll see. I'm gonna do my best to have something out for you anyway. Krolas, hi. How do you beat tiredness when you have to fly? Well, you have to get yourself rest. This is as easy as that. This is one of those things that the airline will give you sufficient time to rest, okay? But it's going to be up to you as a pilot and a crew member to make sure that you're using the time that you have allocated to rest. Okay, so this means that, for example, now I am sitting up, it's almost midnight, but I'm only doing that because I know that I'll be able to sleep until about 8:30 tomorrow. Then I put my kids out to school, and then I'm not flying, well, I'm actually not operating at all tomorrow, I'm going as a passenger. But if I will be working early, I mean, you've seen that some Sundays I don't do a live stream, and that's because I'm working early and I need to go to bed maybe at 8:30 to get my 7.5, 8 hours of sleep. And I do that like a clockwork. And after a while, you get used to these kind of changes in bodily rhythm as well. When it comes to actual tiredness in flight, let's say that you've done a long day, there are actually procedures, and I've done a video on this, where we can do something called controlled rest, where we make the cabin crew aware. We have some set procedures for it, and one can actually take a cat nap, maybe of 15-20 minutes on a long flight, long before you start preparing for descent and approach, of course. But you can do that, and then you can actually switch if it's a long enough flight. So you get that like power nap. That is possible to do, and within the rules, providing that the flight is long enough. Daniel Lebaron, Mentor. Let's see, I missed it. Mentor, what are your thoughts on AF447? Do you think it would have happened if the captain went last for his rest break? Speculating on whether or not an accident, a horrible accident, would have happened depending on what the crew members did is not going to help. There is a possibility that him having more experience would have realized what would have happened quicker, and then made sure that the proper stall procedure was followed. But there's also a possibility that he might have been just as confused as the two first officers that was actually at the controls when it happened. So, very hard to say. And I wouldn't want to really talk about that either, because it feels like it's a little bit disrespectful to the people on board. Anywho, Jay Matthews. what is the process of changing runway directions at a busy airport when the wind changes? Yeah, that's like what I was talking about before. What happens is that the aircraft will go out, so the airport will go out and say that we're changing runway, which means that all of the approaching traffic is not going to have to go into a holding pattern. Okay, so it will stack up a bit while the airport is changing everything around, because also there's going to be departing traffic that now has to, turn and taxi towards the other runway. So this whole process takes normally about 15 minutes to do, on which point, if it's a really busy airport, it's going to build up quite a lot of traffic and cause quite a lot of delays. So it's not something they do lightly. They prefer to take a little bit of tailwind for a while and hopefully keep it. But this is the only way to do it. You stack up in the air, you redirect on the ground. Once it's done, then you start pumping in traffic again. There might be that they're holding people on the ground for longer to make sure that all of those people that's sitting in the holding patterns get down, or at least reduce the delay a little bit. Now, this is something that's actually better to ask an air traffic controller than me, because I've seen it from a pilot point of view, but I've actually haven't seen how they do it from the ATC point of view. So there is an ATC forum inside of the app as well. You can go in there and ask there, and there's some air traffic controllers that will be able to answer those questions. Right, I'm going to take some questions as well from the Mentour Aviation, from the chat here. Let's see, make sure. So what is your advice for low hour pilots who have just finished training? Yeah, same as I always tell you guys, you have to now start applying. All right, you have to start looking around the entire world, or at least the places where you have the right to live and work, and just send out applications. Okay, make sure that you check so that you're doing good applications. All right, that you're fulfilling all of the requirements. But there are airlines out there who do take low-hour cadets. Definitely contact all of them, and then just start building contacts, start pestering the local flight club and see if you can get some hours, maybe doing fire surveillance or things like that. Just keep working, right? Never stop working. Look for any kind of in you have, and keep your ATPL knowledge fresh. If you feel that it's taking a lot of time, go out, make sure that you go out flying regularly so you keep that up. Maybe rent a simulator now and then in order to go and keep the IFR skills properly honed, because at one point or another you are going to be called for that precious interview, and when that happens you have to be sharp, right? Because the interview people are going to expect you to know your ATPL theory, obviously, and your MCC course. And this is why I always advise people to go and take a good MCC course. All right, don't cheap out on the MCC course, because the MCC course is what you are going to show the airlines when you come for an interview. This is what they're looking for. They're looking for you to be a good 2-part crew member, right? Multi-crew member. And if you have worked, you've paid top dollar to get a really good education up to CPL level, and then you've thought, I'm just going to get the MCC course that costs 2,000-3,000 euros from this guy that I know. That's basically the crowning of what you're doing, and that is what you're going to show. So I would suggest, if you're in Europe, for example, get the APS MCC course, because it's better. It's just a fact. If you're looking for APS MCC courses, for example, inside of the, I know I keep pushing the app, but that's what I do. It's my little baby. In the app, there is sponsors in the top. If you look at the sponsor bar, there's a new sponsor that just joined us yesterday. It's called Sky for You in Germany. They do APS MCC courses, and those APS MCC courses are recognized and approved by Ryanair, which is one of the biggest employers of low-time pilots. All right. So if you're in the app, just go up and click the Sky for You link. That will take you to their homepage, and you can check it out. And I can vouch for them, because I know that they have been having to go through quite severe selection to be selected by Ryanair in the first place, which means that they are likely to do a very good job. So go and check that out. All right, more super chat questions. David R. At 10,000 feet, do pilots make that chime, or is it auto? That depends a little bit on which airline you're flying with. Normally that is done manually because it has to be a little bit of a thought behind. If that 10,000 feet chime is to release the cabin crew or to release the passengers, then anything that has to do with releasing people from their seatbelts have to be a conscious thought. It shouldn't be an automatic thing. Because every time that I pass 10,000 feet, that's when we release the passengers normally. I look at the first officer and ask, should we release the passengers? They might say, well, actually, there's a little bit of build-up over there. Maybe we should wait. Yeah, great. And then we'll wait until we pass any potential turbulence that might be out there. So it's not something that I would think would come automatically. So, more question here. Jeff Tedke. Hi, Mentor. Jeff from Wisconsin, USA. Do you ever make it out to the States? I would love to meet you. The short answer to that is no. I don't fly to the United States, okay? I would love to do that. I know that about 35% of all the views that the channel has comes from the States, which means that I would love to come over there and do a meetup. I am sponsored by both Aviation, so I believe that they have a big office in Boston, for example. So there might be a possibility to go over there and visit them and maybe do a meetup somewhere around there. I also have some business in New York. That would be cool. Florida is something. I've never been to Florida. I've been to New York, I've been to Los Angeles, and I've been to Seattle. But I've never been to Florida, so I'd love to come down there. Basically, if it was up to me, I would be traveling everywhere all the time. But you can be fairly sure that the US is definitely on my list to do. And when I know that I'm coming, I'm going to make sure that everyone knows at least a few weeks beforehand, so that if people have traveling plans or something and they want to come by, they know they can do that. But believe me, it is on my to-do list, and it will hopefully come. I'm a little bit in contact with Flight Shops as well. I'm hoping that you guys are watching his beautiful, wonderful channel. All right, if you're interested in aviation, you should definitely be checking out Flight Shops. So if I had the opportunity to do something together with him, that would also be awesome. Okay, so we'll never know. If there are fun things in the pipeline, that's all I can say. Boeing 787 Alpha Alpha, thank you for supporting the channel. If you haven't already, would you consider doing a video on ETOPS ratings and the history of twin engine versus four engine flights across the Atlantic? Yeah, I could probably do that. I have covered that quite a bit in the Why Are the Super Jumbos Disappearing video. The tri-jets, I've talked about that as well. So I have kind of looked into it and I have discussed it. Now, I haven't gone into the details of ETOPS yet. We'll see if I do that. The problem with that is that I tend to only talk about things that I do myself, and the fact is that I don't fly ETOPS. My company is not ETOPS approved. We do fly some oceanic routes, but not ETOPS routes. Okay, and that might happen in the future, but we'll see. If I'm running out of things that I'm actually doing and I want to talk about this, then definitely ETOPS is on the to-do list. Axel Rosling, is state-sponsored commercial pilot training good? Well, mine was, and I would believe that since the states are sponsoring and paying the money, that they would make sure that the training that they're getting for the money is really good. My training was second to none. I did mine with OSM Flight Academy. They're called OSM Flight Academy now. They were called Bromma Flygskola back in the day. Then they became SAA, and now they're OSM. They did an absolutely fantastic job. The training was second to none. A lot of people from my class are flying all over the world at the moment. So yes, I could say that with very high certainty, it is good quality training. Lainey Shapiro. Do all pilots get along, or do some pilots disagree or dislike other officers? Yeah, there are people that absolutely hate each other. There are very few. There's more likely you're going to come across people that you just don't really get along with. Those people that there's nothing, they haven't done anything to you, but you don't really have the kind of synergy, the chemistry that's needed. The fact is that that's going to happen. That's human nature. Now, we tend to be fairly similar because pilots, they're basically they come from similar backgrounds normally. They have similar interests. They like their technology stuff. They like their cars. They like their physical activity. So that you tend to find people that you like. But once in a blue moon, you'll come across someone you don't like, and then you just do your job. You sit there. You have pleasant conversations. You don't have to go into something political or anything that you think might aggravate it, and you just do your SOPs. That's what you're paid for, and that's what you do. If you fly as a first officer together with someone you really don't like as a captain, well, you adapt. Right? You act like a chameleon. You have to be like a chameleon. You have to adapt yourself to the captain's style in order to have a good or reasonably okay day. But then you have to also set your standard of like, I'm going to let it go to here, and then I'm going to say no. The place that you should say no at is if there is any kind of safety concern. Obviously, that's your job. You have to speak up. And I cannot overemphasize this, guys. If you are working as a first officer right now, or you're going into the first job, you are expected to speak up when something is about to go wrong. If you don't, there's no point of you being there. You have to speak up. Okay, those of you who follow my Facebook account, I have a Facebook page called Mentour Pilot. Surprise. I actually posted, because I know that there's a series now about EasyJet. I don't know what it's called, but it's a series from inside of the cockpit partially, and then you get to follow some pilots around and nothing. I haven't seen the whole episodes yet, but there was a part of an episode that was aired that has been going viral on social media because the flight crew was taxiing along. They misunderstood taxi directions. They taxied the wrong way. And they didn't really show that they cared too much about it. Okay, the first officer she noticed that they probably were taxiing the wrong way. She did say something, but she didn't speak up that loud enough. So the reason that I put that up on my Facebook page was because I needed to put this point across. You have to speak up, guys. And when it comes to ground navigation and ground communication, it's equally important. Actually, quite a few of the accidents that happens and damage to aircraft happens on the ground because people are taxiing the wrong way, taxiing in with wings into stabilizers. Things like this happen. So, it's nothing to laugh about if you taxi the wrong way. In fact, if you do that on a line check, especially if you do it twice, it might be causes for some really harsh debriefings. So if you're not sure on the ground and you've gotten a taxi clearance and you haven't understood it fully, you have to hold position. You have to reconfirm with the ground what the taxi clearance was, and only when you're absolutely sure where you're supposed to go, then you continue to taxi. This is your job as a first officer when you're on the ground, when you're in the air. You have to speak up, right? If you have a disagreement with your captain, then take it later on, okay? You speak up, you make sure that the aircraft is safe, and then when you get down on the ground, if they've been nasty to you, whatever, when you have the parking brake set, that's when you tell them, I don't appreciate being talked to that way, or whatever it might be. But you keep the kind of potential argument until you're on the ground. But you speak up when it's needed. Okay? That's probably the single most important thing that I have to say on this live stream. So, Puleshtuya Parek. I lost my laptop in a bus. Your videos made me keep calm. I planned how I would recover it, imported data, arranged a backup for my work. I handled the emergency smoothly, and I did find my laptop in the end. Perfect. Exactly. That's how you work. That's how you work in an emergency situation. There are two choices. You can choose either to freak out and like, wow, where's my laptop? And what am I going to do? My life is ruined. Or you sit down, take a deep breath and say, okay, what is step one? What's the most important bit? Well, it's my data. Do I have a backup? Yes. Okay. How do I get that backup? This way. Good. That's saved. Next thing, I need my laptop. Right. Where is it likely gone? What is the bus number? Where did I lose it? What phone number can I reach in order to tell them that I've lost it so that they can contact the person driving? I'll do that now. Good. That's done. They have my email address. They have my telephone number. Now, there's not much more I can do. I'll concentrate on retrieving the data. So that's exactly the way that we work, actually. Now, you had to make that checklist up, but we have checklists. So we take a deep breath and like, okay, step one, you fly the aircraft. I try to sort out the QRH checklist. Let's see. What do? We have this light. Okay. This is how we do. Well done. So let's see. So I haven't missed anything here. There we go. What would you want in clean sheet 737 replacement? I'm guessing that the 797 is around the corner. Probably hurried up a little bit by this whole debacle with the 737 MAX. I don't know, to be perfectly honest. There are a few things that the 737 that should be improved on the 737. It needs to have a bigger cockpit. The cockpit is small, cramped, and quite, I don't understand how the older pilots actually do it, because you have to be a contortionist in order to get in and out sometimes. So it needs to have a bigger cockpit. The overhead panel and the basically all system annunciations need to improve. It needs to have electronic checklists rather than the QRH. The QRH works, and it works because the 737 is it's not as a complex, it doesn't have so much computer systems like an Airbus would have, for example, but it would be nice if we could, tick off things that we've done in an electronic checklist, so the aircraft would feel, for example, if we need to turn right pack off, we do that, then one thing would disappear off the checklist. Things like that, which is really 21st century stuff, needs to come. And I like a black top overhead panel. That means that only when something's wrong, you will have a light. At the moment, we have loads of lights. We have blue lights, and we have magenta lights, and we have amber lights, and we have red lights, and we have things that's popping up in different colors depending on what position the switch is in. Like you're moving a valve around, it will go from dim blue to bright blue to off, and things like that. Now, in my view, it should be light when something is bad, not light when something is good. That's how the old Fokkers used to, like the Fokker 100 already did things like that, and I think it makes sense because it makes it easier to catch when something is actually wrong. So there's a few things that I would like. Otherwise, I would like it to be more environmentally friendly. I would like it to be more quiet, have more gadgets for us to play with in the cockpit, things like that. Des Hodgins, your opinion on the high-paying jobs in China? The way that things works is this, all right? An airline will pay its pilots as little as it possibly can. Okay, and I'm not talking about only airlines, I'm talking about every company out there. A company out there will always try to pay as little as possible to retain the competence they need. Okay, so if they need more competence, they pay more because they need to get that competence. If you look at that parameter, the Chinese airlines at the moment are paying very high salaries. Not all of them, but quite a few of them are offering quite good salary packages. And when you see that, it means that they need that in order to attract talent. And they probably know that it is a huge cultural shift to move from Europe, for example, to China, with all what that, what comes with that. So they need to pay those salaries now. They don't want to pay those salaries. I have full understanding for people who does it, who sees it as an adventure to go there and to claim home whatever they get, 15,000, 20,000 euros per month, tax-free, crazy, and that's a lot of money. I understand that completely. I am not interested in it at the moment. My priorities are my family, staying where I know my sons feel secure and safe, where my wife has protection and where she has help in case something would happen. That's my priority. Now, if something happens, if something shifts, I might consider that as well. But there's nothing, I don't put any value into it. I just find it, they pay. There's a reason they're paying that much. That's my view on it. So, Sebastian Laber, thank you very much for your help. James Chen, pushing Toga twice. Why not 100% instead of 97? If assumed temperature was used, would Toga revert to that trust setting? Would Toga button work if assumed temperature was off? Now, pushing toga twice, that's a go-around thing, all right? And it will give you maximum go-around thrust. It has nothing to do with the zoom temperature. It has to do with what the maximum go-around thrust is, right? And maximum go-around thrust is not always 100%. It has to do with the outside temperature. It's as much thrust as the engine can produce under the current circumstances and conditions. So don't mix in the zoom temperature in it. The way to get full go-around thrust is press once, let the thrust lever move forward, press a second time. Then you have full go-around thrust. And you can overboost that as well if you're part of for example, a wind shear escape maneuver or a terrain escape maneuver. But that is just momentarily, right? It's not good for the engines. Full go-around thrust is as much as the engines are calculated to do, to take without any risk to them. All right? Toga would work if you don't have a zoom temperature as well. Yes, a zoom temperature is not mandatory. In fact, for example, if we have more than 10 knots crosswind, we don't use a zoom temperature. We use only fixed D rates. Carlos Cortez, thank you very much for your support. And Marek Kivilishku. Hi, would it be to operate flights without refueling before takeoff? Would it be possible to operate flights without refueling before takeoff? I'm pretty sure that the flight from SIG to IPO did not refuel before returning to SIG. It was a regular Air 320. Yeah, it's perfectly possible. We do that sometimes. It's called tankering, where the fuel is more cheap in one place than another, or there's some kind of problem with fuel. For example, today in Manchester, the fueling stations broke down, so you would have to tanker fuel into Manchester. And provided that you have performance to do so, is perfectly doable. We fill up, if let's say that we would have taken 8 tons to go to Manchester, then if there's not enough if not a huge amount of passengers, then maybe we can take, well, the equivalent of 12 tons instead, and we will be able to tank a round trip. So yes, it is possible. Guys, that is it. I'm not going to take any more super chat questions. Thank you very much. I have to go to bed because I have to get up tomorrow to do my sim check on Tuesday. Let's see if it takes a few more questions here from the live stream questions forum. Once again, make sure that you get the app after this. All right, and if you want to support the work that I do when it comes to developing the app and things, then go in and get yourself one of the collections. All right. The all-in-one collection is the one that I always recommend because that gives you all of the other 360 videos, and it's me instructing you on a 737 for 2 hours about different things that I'm thinking that you probably think is really, really interesting. So let's see if I can actually show you this. There we go. So this is from inside of one of the collections. This is how you can move around to see what's happening inside of the cockpit. And of course, if you have a cardboard headset, then it will feel just like you're sitting on the jump seat together with me when we're doing these maneuvers. It's really cool, actually. So get one of those collections if you want to. They're all inside there in the home part of the app. So going back to the forum here. Rys, Mentor, when you complete your training with an airline, do you get to choose what airport you want to work from? Well, no. The airlines are going to have different bases. Most airlines doesn't have that many bases. My airline have a lot of bases. So you will be able to put in a request. And if you're lucky, you might get that. But also remember that when you're starting and you're coming out as a cadet, you are like the lowest in seniority. And there's going to be people above you that want to get certain bases, and they're supposed to get them for you. So if you're really lucky, then yes, you might get the base of your choice, but most likely you're gonna have to work to move somewhere, and that's also cool. You know, especially if you're young and you're not attached, why not go to a different country that you haven't lived in before and get yourself a really nice apartment and go out partying and get to learn to know that city and that country that you move to. Learn the language. You're just gonna become a better person. You're gonna get a much more rich understanding of the world around you. So I highly recommend people to not see having to move away from home as a negative thing. See it as the possibility it is. It is a very, very good thing. And the last question here. there's some people. Rosk is asking about European Flight Academy. I don't know European Flight Academy personally. I haven't heard anything about them. But if you are out here and you're watching this now and you're in European Flight Academy, well then go into the flight training forum and then tell Rosk in there what you think about European flight training. Do that now, all right? Because that will be really helpful. So. HBPDU. Hi Mentor, I'm thinking about to try to start a pilot career. Every job has its downsides. What are the challenges about being an airline pilot? We're finishing off on that note. Challenges of being an airline pilot are a few. Okay, the working times. So you'll be working really early mornings and really late nights all the time. So that's one thing. Potentially you might be working during weekends as well. And holidays, your birthday, Christmas. These kind of things might not seem that important when you're single and you're young, but when you have a family, then it's going to be a whole different thing. So those things tend to be less of a problem in the beginning, more of a problem later on. Good night. My wife going to bed. I would say that probably is the worst part of it. Then of course, I mean, it's a fairly noisy environment. It's cramped. It's potentially stressful. There's a lot of stress-related issues that pilot faces. If you're working long haul, you're going to have things like changes to your circadian rhythm because of jet lag. So these are things that you have to think about. Relocation. Where can you live? Where do you have to move in order to get a pilot job? But on the other hand, it's the coolest job there is. The pay is quite nice. There's a lot of off time, and loads and loads of positive things that comes with it. But as you say, there are always negative things with everything. You always have two sides. You will never be able to find a job where you just wake up deliriously happy to go to work every day. It doesn't exist. But you can find really good jobs, and being a pilot is one of them. And on that bombshell, I'm going to sign off for today. It's been fantastic to have you here, guys. Now get the app, all right? Free download links down here. And also, if you have the app already, please help me by going into App Store and give it a hopefully nice review and grade, okay, on App Store. Just go in there and grade and tell me what you think. But if you have some negative stuff, then it's better to use the submit feedback button, because then I actually get that. I can send it to my developers. But if you want to give me 5 stars, give me 5 stars. That would be awesome. If you want to continue to get these kind of things, to get notifications of when I'm doing live streams and stuff, make sure that you've subscribed and that you've hit the notification bell, because otherwise you won't get notifications when I do these live streams. So that's very important. Take care of yourselves, guys. Hopefully I'll be able to do maybe a shorter video for Friday. I'm going to do what I can. Take care of yourself. Bye-bye.